Tom, yes. When you are able to remove self from self, and place yourself in the position of another, then begins the evolution of the planet. Then this planet begins being the paradise that it was planned to be, yes. Express yourself in words of love and words of joy, and that makes the universe in happiness, for when there is happiness, joy and laughter in the universe, it is a time of great celebration. This is what planet Earth must do. Humankind must not take itself so seriously. It must begin to experience within itself the joy of its divinity, the joy of its oneness with the universe. It must pull itself out of this bondage, it must stop living in a situation of victims. We have never asked for victims or sacrifice, but humankind in its guilt creates its victimhood. For it knows that it has passed and has crossed that valley that it should not have, and now together with all we are bringing it back across the valley, for it to be one with the universe. This next transmission was concerned with other communications and their validity. Andrew, I want to ask about psychic communication. Could you give us an idea as to who in the past, historically recognizable figures, were what you would call perfect communicators? As you say this being is. Could you tell us of any that we can rely on? Tom, I will consult for permission. There was the one you call Jesus of Nazareth, you knew that. There was the one that you call Socrates. There was the one that gave to you in code, Nostradamus. There was the one that was of one and the same as that of Jesus, the Buddha. Remember this, there was perfect communication and it was in translation that it became obscure. In all the translations. Andrew, in all of these cases, I see, right? Tom, then there was Elijah, and there was the one called Joseph. Andrew, which Joseph was that? There are several in the Bible. Tom, it would be the one that was in Egypt, and there was one whose name was Da Vinci. We speak to you only of those that have been recorded historically. There have been others. Andrew, a more recent figure like Helen Blavatsky, would she qualify? Tom, I must consult. Yes, Blavatsky was true. Andrew, are there any who have lived in the past 100 years who were scientists who recorded knowledge that is true? Tom, that knowledge comes from a civilization. Andrew, I see you are talking about those directly speaking with you. Tom, yes. John, may I ask about the Theosophists? I assume that the person who spoke through Blavatsky and Alice Bailey was the same person, known to us as the Tibetan-Dha Volkal. Tom, that is not true. John, could you tell us who the Tibetan is then? Tom, we are trying to find a way of explaining. If you have three people, who together create a triangle, and if the three merge in mind, you would have a oneness. The Tibetan is a triangle. John, does he have a direct relationship to the nine? Tom, it is as if, we know not how to explain, it is incomprehensible in your language. It is not a physical being. The information comes from a triangle? John, is it of a high quality? Tom, yes. It is taking from three, the perfect aspects of the three. Do you understand that? John, yes, I do. Tom, the Tibetan was different to Blavatsky. Andrew, I've recently looked again at the writings of Michel de Nostradamus, and I've been very impressed how his predictions made 400 years ago are parallel to the ones that you have made about what is coming. Who was this Michel de Nostradamus that he was so prescient way back when, and were you behind his foreknowledge? Tom, when there was prediction, people took it as a definite reason to be out of their responsibility. It was an error that we made also, for humans hold destiny in their hands. What was not understood by humankind was that prediction was made to have man change his way. If he did not change, then the prediction would come into being. We cannot reiterate that point enough. We wish that to be impressed upon humankind's mind, for it is the beginning of humankind's understanding that they hold the key, they are responsible, and they make the change. You ask who he was. He was doing the same as you are doing at this time. We now wish for light to come forth, for the removal of darkness, for the removal of humanity's belief that darkness must take place. For there are two alternatives, the ones of darkness have existed too long, it is time for those of light, and that is your choosing. Humankind does not need despair, hopelessness, or futility, but hope, love, and the possibility of goodness. Here is an exploration of principles which can contribute another thread to the tapestry of our understanding. John, could you say whether in fact there are 12 principles that have come in, and if the final one is balance minus, is that correct? Tom, I will consult for permission. It is affirmative but with reservations. John, yes, well, could you mention some of the other principles and the times at which they came? That might help me to understand principles that came in at different times. Tom, in the time between the father of Abraham and Moses, and spanning the time of Jacob, was the principle of law. When we speak of law, we speak of the following of the law of the nine. That does not mean that the law that was given had the necessity of being adhered to from that point until what you would call eternity. But it was important for that time. In the true sense, natural law does not change, but law for order in the universe in relationship to a singular planet is adaptable to change. When we speak of law in that time, we speak of a law that those that we had asked, as we had asked Abraham, Jacob and Moses, do what we had asked in faith. It was a form of law. John, yes, I feel that there is something important behind these principles. I feel they're associated with the 12, i.e., the 9 plus 3 and the 9. Are these periods regular in length, or do they vary? Am I on the right track? Tom, we understand what you are getting at. Again, we answer with an affirmative but also with reservations, for there have been times that are in closeness to other times of great distance. John, I don't quite. Tom, there are those times which have great expansions, and then there are those times which are short periods. John, yes. Has there been another one between the time of Christ and now? Tom, that of Christ was the final before you today. The period at the time of Altia was of wisdom. The principle of justice came at the time of war. The time of Horus in Egypt was of knowledge, and knowledge also became out of balance. Yes.